It's Palm Sunday, one of the most sacred days of the year in Little Rome. Just 15 minutes after the many church bells ring out marking the 8 a.m. hour, Metropolitan Police receive a frantic 911 call. The tavern's assistant manager, Carlos Wilcox, says the place is being robbed by two masked men.
He ran to the roof for his safety. He's hiding on the roof, and his employees are downstairs with the gunman.
Two patrol car officers are the first to arrive. The tavern is eerily empty. But when they open up the walk-in freezer, they find a gruesome display of savagery.
And then they start immediately putting out on the radio what their findings are. They're saying, we have multiple people down, we have multiple people shot, have the homicide unit respond.
When I first got the call that there's a triple murder at Colonel Brooks, I was like, huh? So many things just going through my mind. Colonel Brooks? Brooklyn? There's no way in the world someone got murdered there. When I arrived on the crime scene, I walked to where the freezer was. I saw shell casings everywhere, blood everywhere. And just the amount of shell casings that were on the floor, I could tell it was possibility it was more than one shooter.
There were visible scratches at the ground level where her body was. That showed she was shot last. She's laying there, listening and watching her friends get killed, and she's got nowhere to go. And she's trying to dig out of a refrigerated room. It was just wrong, just wrong.
Crime scene technicians begin the painstaking work of collecting evidence. They bring the victims' IDs to Detective Cradle. The first, 34-year-old Joshua Greenberg, the restaurant's head chef. Then there's the tavern's veteran cook, 48-year-old Naomi Payne.
Now, when I look at the third card, I'm already feeling bad. When I looked at the third card, I saw the photograph of Rodney Bonds. It's almost like I was frozen. I just kept staring at this photograph and was like, oh my God, Rodney? Rodney and I grew up in the same neighborhood. We lived around the corner from each other. We were in the same playground. And he was just a guy who would never cause a problem for anyone. I mean, I can't even ever recall Rodney in a fist fight. He was kind, he was sweet, always smiling. And to see that was just very traumatic. Even though I was very emotional about me seeing Rodney as a victim, I had to maintain professionalism and not take any of it personal. And I knew I was going to at some point have to face the family, but I didn't want to face the family until I had some answers. I believe it was an inside job because the way it was done.
Most of the people who left the restaurant left on good terms. It was very rare that we had anybody that we dismissed for cause.
But Detective Cradle's convinced someone knows something. He gets contact information for all 200 current and former employees and begins a systematic investigation.
I'm going through the list alphabetically, but everything was checking out. They were nice. I was feeling bad because I don't have anything. Some nights I would just ride by Colonel Brooks just to be in the area. I just wanted some type of angel just to come and just tell me what happened because no one had anything. And I ain't gonna lie, I was getting frustrated.
Three months after the murders, Cradle is halfway through the alphabet and finally reaches the names beginning with M. That's when the phone rings and changes the entire investigation.
He said, I know what happened. I want to tell you.
The next morning, the two men sit down at a local park.
His good friend had told him that he's the one who shot and killed the female.
His friend's name is Tyree Bunn.
He said, there's no way in the world Tyree killed someone. And he said he really thought Tyree was just messing with him. And that's when he told me that his good friend went to this tavern, Colonel Brooks, and they robbed the place. Tyree told him they only got like $3,200, wasn't a lot of money.
When Cradle hears the $3,200, he knows this guy's legit. That information had never been released to the public.
I said, look, man, we have a situation whereas we can just put you in a vehicle with him. He said, cool, no problem.
We were very, very concerned about him not saying anything that would jeopardize his safety. Turns out he was really good at this.
We have like 3 cars following. We see Tyree walk up to the vehicle, get in. And we're watching everything on camera. We can see everything. So while they're driving, the informant says, man, I still don't believe what you said, man. I don't believe that, man. I ain't like you, man. I don't believe you did something like that. And Tyree just started bragging about what happened. He was even like, bam, bam, bam. I mean, he's describing what he did to Naomi in the freezer.
Tyree tells the tipster, even though everyone is saying there were 2 that day, there were actually 4. And the one who planned it all is a guy named David Wright. He'd been a cook at the tavern, but was let go in the summer of 2002, and he wanted to rob the place. When Cradle hears the name, he scrambles to see if it's on the tavern's employee list. And there it is.
David Wright did not like to listen to management. He didn't want to follow directions. He didn't want to be told what to do. He wanted to be his own boss. He loved to laugh and play, but he was a dirty cook, so his area was always dirty.
Carlos fired Wright for being unsanitary. But the cook took his dismissal so well, Carlos never thought to mention him to police.
He was so nonchalant. He was like, oh, well, like, I knew it was coming. He personally knew Rodney and Naomi, personally knew them. He knew she had plans for the future. He knew Rodney was a father with a wife at home. Like, he knew this stuff. He worked there. It's just...
According to Tyree Bunn, when this whole plan was orchestrated, there was no talk initially about murdering anyone. There was only talk about a robbery.
Based on what Tyree said, they came in through the rear of the restaurant. Once they got inside, they saw the 3 employees, Josh, Naomi, and Rodney. Ordered them into the freezer area, while 2 of them, one being Tyree, went upstairs because David told them about the money drop. They take the money and they left. Joel and Tyree stayed as lookouts while David and Rodman is inside the freezer with the 3 victims.
They were masked, but Naomi recognized David. And she said, don't do this, David. And David said, they gotta go.
We are describing him to be considered armed and extremely dangerous. We're asking anyone that has information as to his whereabouts or if they should see him, please take no direct action, but call police.
It doesn't take long for a local woman to call and tell them that Wright is hiding out 2 hours away in Colonial Heights, Virginia.
The police had the perimeter surrounded. He was inside, and he could not get past them.
But David Wright surprises everyone.
And I'm like, what? And he's in the bathtub inside of a pool of blood. I mean, it's just full of blood and he's naked.
The ringleader of the Colonel Brooks Tavern murders has slashed his wrists.
I just stood there and just like, damn, he went out like this?
He didn't go out in a blaze of glory. He went by his own hand.
That was too easy. He deserved so much more punishment. But burning in hell, I guess, is pretty good punishment.
In December 2005, Tyree Bunn and Joelle Smith plead guilty to second-degree murder and are sentenced to 24 years and 30 years, respectively. Rodman Durham is convicted of first-degree murder. He is sentenced to 75 years.
3 souls were taken away from their families on Palm Sunday for a little bit of money. No good reason at all.
My father actually has not recovered. He, people get on with their lives after a while, but, he never goes away. And I feel like it actually broke him. Josh's death broke him. And it's like his life stopped at that moment when his son was murdered.
I think I talked to him in my dreams. Recently I saw Naomi, and we was just laughing and talking. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
When I say the case was my heart, it was my heart because Rodney was a great guy. He was a good friend. Me saying it was my heart is just Rodney.